Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. People say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. No, wait a second. It's really how you say it, more so than what you say. No, it's actually none of those things. It's how your buyer's brain works when you say what you say and how you say it, and what their thought process is, what their fears, concerns, hopes, dreams, all of those things. And don't you wish you had an X-ray machine? Well, my friends, you do have an X-ray machine, and he is my guest, Mr. Jake Stahl. Welcome to the show.
Oh, David, thank you for having me. This is such an honor to be here. I was really excited for this.
So you, out of all of our 450 plus guests, I think this is literally the first interview where we are going to spend some time talking about the buyer's brain.
Excellent.
And what goes on in the buyer's brain and how we can guide and shape the thinking and the emotions to make that a much more sales-friendly environment up there in those brain cells. So before we jump into that, please share with us a little bit about what has been your professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Sure. So, David, I'm a sales trainer. I have been for 30 years. I've done it across 6 countries, 47 states. It's been a great ride so far. I think the thing that fascinated me the most was from the time we're kids, we're always told, you're unique, you're different, and you're special. And it's interesting how, in reality, we're all remarkably the same. We all react the same way in the large part. We all think the same way. And I think that's what changed my view over the years of selling. And I would say that was one of the biggest aha moments for me, is that we're not terribly different. And if we get some certain things down that we think about and talk about all the time, people are going to react remarkably the same way. The other aha moment for me, David, is that very few of us do this. We tend to think first, and if we say something wrong, we apologize. But we don't put a lot of thought into what we say or how it comes across. And I think to this day, David, that really surprises me. We work on everything under the sun. We'll spend 30 minutes looking for a cat video, but we won't spend just 10 minutes a day figuring out how to communicate better.
Let's talk about the 3 building blocks that you uniquely bring together. And I guarantee I will get this wrong, but help me out here. Neuro-strategy, neuro-linguistic programming, and sales psychology. Did I get any of that right?
Yeah, that would be great. Yep. And we bring those together through looking at behavioral psychology and social psychology. And we kind of mix those into one big bag, and we put that all under the neuro-strategy umbrella.
Okay, excellent. So tell us a little bit about where traditional salespeople, entrepreneurs get this wrong, some of the language missteps or some of just lack of thought and carelessness almost, versus what a more mindful, pun intended, mindful, planful use of questioning, language, imagery. Give us kind of like the 101 level of where most people go wrong, and then a couple of 101 upgrades that we could do.
Sure. So my firm belief is that business development is rooted in 3 things: conditioning, perception, and just our natural coding, the way we think and do things every day. And I think that the thing I've seen we do wrong generally, David, is we speak about things from our first person perspective. So I love this, therefore you should too. I need money, therefore you should buy from me. right? So it's a pretty simple thought process. But what we rarely do is put ourselves in the customer's shoes and say, I hate those type of phone calls. Why would I want to receive that? My email box is littered with those messages. Why would I want to send that? And yet we do. What I find, David, is most of the time when I work with a company, a CEO will say, I don't know if we need this. I think we communicate well. And I say, do me a favor, call your sales team, tell them you want to buy something, and then we'll talk again. And I'd say 70% of the people come back and go, oh, I get it now. Yeah, we should probably talk. And so I think looking at it from the customer's perspective is the starting block for the whole process.
Follow-up question. Are you ever tempted to, or do you even offer this as a service that you will secret shop their sales team and their sales process?
Yeah, and it's funny, I don't even advertise that I do that. So if a company wants to hire me, the first thing I do is call their sales team, and then I call their customer service line. I want to see how I'm handled from both angles, and that helps me create my proposal. And again, I'm doing it from the customer's point of view.
Yeah.
And it's become a good practice for me over the years, David, that if I'm going to put something out or say something, I will try to type it out first and then come back and read it a day later and say, what do I really think about this?
Let me share with you, because I remember I posted a blog, or I think I even recorded this and I posted the audio. This was years ago. I'm going to give you an example of a salesperson that did, in a 15-second voicemail, literally did everything wrong. And you will laugh, and I'm sure you've got dozens of examples of this. Hi, David. My name is Jerry Johnson. I'd like to take 15 minutes of your time and tell you about our products and services and see if there's a fit. Call me back at 555-1212. 10 mistakes in that. Jake, I don't know how he did it, but he packed 10 different mistakes into a less than 15-second message.
Yeah.
You want to take? You want to take from me? You want to take my most valuable asset, which is my time? Oh my gosh. And what exactly am I taking this time? Oh, so you can tell me about your products and your services and see if there's a commission check on your end with my name on it. Why? And so, but here's my challenge, or here's my question. It's not a challenge. My challenge to that CEO who tells you, Jake, no, we're dialed in. If he were to get that, he'd probably be okay with it, because he says that's what we train our people to say.
That's a valuable point. You're right.
So now you're like, dude, this is a disaster. So
Yeah.
Do you ever have that situation where you have to tell someone that their sales baby is ugly?
Oh, 100%. And my favorite, David, is when I get the companies that say, we close 10 out of every 100 people we talk to. And I say, okay, so how did you come up with that number? Well, that was the average from last year. All right, so let me get this straight. You're taking last year's failure and you're using it as this year's goal. Is that what I'm hearing? If you're only closing 10%, I don't know how you can accept that from a sales force. And I know I'm going to have a million sales managers go, well, that's the average. But does it have to be?
Yeah.
When I first started dating my wife, tangential here, but when I first started dating my wife, I held the door for the first time and she says, I can hold my own door. I said, yeah, but do you want to? And she's like, well, no. It's like, problem solved. So when I talk to a sales director who says we only close 10 out of 100, I say, are you happy with that? Do you really want to be doing that? And most of the time they're not. But David, this goes to the condition part of that triad I talked about. We're so conditioned for 10% and we can't do any better. And it's all about making 3,000 calls versus 10 really focused ones. Some sales teams are just lost in the woods. And when I talk to them and we do my techniques, it brings them back.
Well, I want to get into, because there's multiple different aspects of your empire. And the one that we initially connected on is this software platform called Orchestrate.
Yeah.
And Orchestrate, the straight part of that is a straight line, orchestrate.com. We'll have the link in the show notes if you want to go check that out. Tell us about Orchestrate and how it came to be and what is super cool about it.
Sure. So, David, I'm heavily involved in the fractional world. Fractional executives, people trying to get off the ground. Maybe they've been separated. Maybe they just decided it's time to start their own business. And the common complaint I heard from people was, I just formed my LLC. Now, what do I do? And then from the people who knew what to do, the complaint was, Jake, I've never sold anything. I was a chief marketing officer. I have no clue how to sell me or my product. So I took an AI and I built in behavioral psychology triggers, hook points, social psychology studies and research, and neuro-linguistic programming. And I created a program called Orchestrate that does two things. First, it helps you with the foundations of your business. How do I figure out my offering? How do I create a value prop that's going to stop traffic? How do I design an elevator pitch or figure out my ideal customer profile? Because those are hard enough, David, but then when you try to put them in verbiage that people, where it will actually stick with them and people want to hear them, it's a whole different game. Once you establish foundations, then you go into having workspaces, and this is where you can work with clients. So an example might be, I want to do business with David Newman. Here's his LinkedIn site. Here's his website. Help me create an email campaign and a marketing campaign and a sales script that I can use with David that's geared specifically to him. And so Orchestrate really has become a way for people to wordsmith and to create value propositions that are so impactful that they get noticed. I like to say Orchestrate makes your verbiage tend to turn heads in rooms that you weren't even invited into.
Hey now, what a great episode, right? Are you ready to build your own Market Eminence game plan using the power of speaking, publishing, and podcasting? Book a chat with me to build your plan and see if and how I might help you further. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. No sales team, no pressure, no goofballs, just you and me having a CEO to CEO chat about what's possible for you and your company. Hop on with me, doitmarketing.com/call. And now, let's jump right back into the interview. Tell us, and I want to get into because you said a couple of really cool things, the social psychology, the hooks, some of the other behavioral pieces. But tell us a little bit about when people do this right, like they take that Orchestrate email campaign or LinkedIn message, and I've seen it, I'm in there, right? So I'm working with it. I notice what's going on because of my training and my background. But when you send that message, the overall effect on the prospect is that their shields go down. Their shields do not go up like, uh-oh, salesperson, standard pitch, shallow, impersonal, whatever. It's like, oh, this is a real person. There's some warmth. There's some rapport. Now, I could catch you on the horrible day. You just had an argument with your wife. You spilled hot coffee on your lap in the car. No matter how beautiful and orchestrated that message is, pun intended, you are not going to get through to me because I'm having a horrible, horrible day and I'm in a terrible frame of mind. I'm talking about a neutral kind of baseline prospect. They are going to feel emotionally different on that first touch using the Orchestrate methodology, hooks, social psychology. Talk a little bit about how these messages are received, not just intellectually, but emotionally, feelings.
Well, thank you for asking that, because that covers one of the other pieces of the triad we talked about, which is coding. We're all coded to think a certain way, and fear and resistance and all of those things are there for a reason. I mean, it keeps us from reading stupid stuff we get. It enables us to scan. What Orchestrate is designed to do is find that hook point that's going to get the person interested. So instead of saying, hey, I have a new sales training methodology for you, maybe Orchestrate would say something to the effect of, listen, 70% of salespeople get this wrong. Here's how to do it right. Now that's a subject line that's going to make you go, oh, geez, 70% get it wrong. I wonder what that right piece is. Then the idea within the body of the marketing piece or the body of the email is to continue to hit those behavioral triggers. What's the best way to keep somebody's attention? What's the best way to make it about them, to invoke the law of reciprocation, to do future pacing, to do cognitive dissonance? And I've had people, David, come to me and say, well, what's the difference between that and manipulation? It's not manipulating if you're hitting the triggers that get the people interested in a solution. They can choose whether the solution's good enough for them. I'm not manipulating them to buy from me. I'm just getting them to get away from their conditioned responses and think about the process. And honestly, I get precious few emails or DMs per day that get me to think about anything except deleting.
So tell me about when you say hooks. Give me a definition of a hook and give me one or two examples of your favorite hooks.
Sure. So a hook point is when you say a specific amount of verbiage. I always say you should be able to fit a hook point on a bumper sticker. If it's longer than a bumper sticker, don't use it.
No.
But a hook point is designed to get people to not give a conditioned response. It's designed to get them to think. Not unlike the one I just gave you, about 70% of salespeople do it wrong.
Which is a curiosity hook.
Correct. And you can have positive or negative hooks, right?
Yeah.
I could do the positive side of 80% of the people are doing it this way. Why aren't you? And the negative side is the 70% do it wrong. So you can add positives or negatives. You know, a simple one when you send out an email is the subject line of, if you read anything today, make it this one. Or you can make the negative side and say, don't open this email, which is going to make probably 60% of people open it anyway.
Right.
And you know, David, the subject line is the first thing people read, and that's how they make their decision. And yet people are so careless with, hey, wanted to bring this to the top of your inbox.
Yeah.
Hey, it's at the bottom of my inbox for a reason.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, hook points are a way to get people interested. And without a strong hook, that's why you get deleted.
Now, I want to just kind of go through, and the cool thing is, within Orchestrate, you get all of this output, whether it's a LinkedIn message or a revised LinkedIn profile or an email or a role play or all of these things. But just in playing with it for a few days already, I've picked up some of the output that I think is brilliant, and I want to have you unpack it for me.
Sure, thank you.
So a lot of the messaging, and in just the right proportion, uses some flavor of the word imagine.
Correct.
Right? Imagine if ... Talk about what that does and why that works.
Sure. So in neuro-linguistic programming and in social psychology, this is called future pacing. So if I sell you a product, I can give you the features and benefits, David, but I'm relying on your imagination to take you into what it's like to own that product.
Yeah.
Future pacing, me telling you to imagine it, forces you to think about using that product. So if I say my sales techniques are going to be, you know, strong and to the point, it's only $1,500, blah, 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 that's much different than me saying, David, think about 5 months from now, when your salespeople are increasing your revenue by 20%, enjoying what they do, and yet without a sales script. That's future pacing.
Yeah.
So if I can say picture or imagine, I'm creating the image that they want to buy. There's an old sales saying, and David, you know this just as good as anybody, that if you don't buy a whole drill bit, you buy a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
My philosophy is it goes a little bit deeper than that. So if you're buying a hole in the wall to hang a picture, you're not buying a drill bit. You're buying the ambiance of that living room with the picture already hung.
Yeah.
That's future pacing.
So good. So good. Another one that I've noticed, and again, you wouldn't, most people would not notice this at all. They'd say, that's a really good email. But I'm kind of picking it apart because I do notice because I'm a sales professional.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, like me, right? Like me, you're probably frustrated by blah, 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 blah. Like me, I'm guessing that you're skeptical of these unproven so-and-so.
Right.
Talk about what does like me, that phrase like me as an introductory phrase, what does that do?
Well, it shows them that they're not the only ones that think this. So it automatically gives you the herd mentality. Listen, you and I are alike. And what's everybody's favorite topic to talk about?
This guy.
Right. Exactly. It's me. So if I can show that I'm like them, they automatically start to form an association or a trust for me. So if I can build that right out with, like me, you're probably frustrated with X, Y, and Z, they start to associate the two of us together. Yeah. My verbiage after that tends to be more from a friend than from a stranger. So we're forming an initial bond with the like me statement.
Another one, and I just realized now that I used it with you a moment ago. I just said most people would not notice this, but most people also shows up. Most people see ways they can implement this after a quick 15-minute call. Most people experience this percentage of benefit. What does most people do for us?
So there's two things to most people. The first is it's going to show that they're part of a group. If they decide to take advantage of it, they're not alone. And people feel better when they have that bandwagon effect going, right? I'm one of a bunch of people that take advantage of this. The second thing it does is it kind of gives you the FOMO. Oh, so a lot of people are doing this already and I haven't yet? Well, maybe I guess maybe I better do that. Yeah. And there's even kind of a third piece. It's basically saying if you're as smart as most people, and it's tapping into the fact that they're a smart individual, right? So I think that taps into kind of three areas of psychology to get them to want to take a minute to do that. And if I'm sure you're going to talk about this too, but I also put in there, would it be crazy to ask? And when you start to get people involved in the decision-making process and you sell the ridiculous to get the acceptable, so you're like, would it be crazy to ask for this? Well, no, Jake, it wouldn't be crazy for you to ask. Yeah. So all of these are little psychological triggers that are designed to get people to take action.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
Last one, and this one I did not see, but I'm a big believer in it. I'm guessing it shows up somewhere, which is this conditional language that makes it okay to say no. So whether we decide to work together or not, here's something that might be valuable for you. Whether we decide this is a good fit to move forward or not, I wanted to let you know that this sale ends on Friday, whatever. That or not is like a pressure release valve. Talk a little bit about taking the pressure off and making it a safe buying environment.
This is why it was so exciting to talk to you today is, man, you just dig into the meat. I love the pressure valve. I am a big fan of saying, feel free to say no, because it does that same pressure valve release. So because Orchestrate creates all of its emails from scratch, it doesn't follow a specific formula all the time. It just follows certain triggers that tend to work at certain spots. It may put that in at times, it may not, but I am a huge fan of giving someone a backdoor. Feel free to say no. I always equate it with, David, you know, if you put somebody in a room and it's got one door and there's a guard at it, it's very difficult. They get stressed out about that door in general. But if there's two doors, one with a guard, one without, and it's open, you're like, oh my God, I could take a second to breathe. And to your point, that or not is their back open door. So
Yeah.
You're so exciting to talk to. I love all the stuff you have in your books.
Well, you know what they say, just smart enough to be dangerous. Just smart enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
So walk us through, and I just walked through this myself, but walk us through an orchestrate onboarding process, because we already talked about foundation, but I'd love to have a little talk about what building blocks we put into our foundation. And then let's also talk about some examples and use cases for workspaces. So we just signed up for a free demo. Link will be in the show notes. Just signed up for a free demo of Orchestrate. We're coming in, everything is clean and fresh. As of this recording, people still get a chance to have a personal onboarding, yes?
Yep.
And
absolutely.
then what do we set up? How does it work?
So there's going to be a couple of things that happen. The first is you're going to be invited to join the Orchestrate community, where there's a bunch of users in there. There's training videos. You can set up a profile. But the community is designed to not only answer questions, but it's designed to help you get through your first couple of days with Orchestrate. If you want to set up a time with me specifically, you can do so, and I'll gladly give you a white glove walkthrough. That's not going to be scalable, by the way, so that's in the beginning now, but in 2 months it may not be. But the first place they're going to start is foundations. So what's your offering? What's your ideal customer profile? What's your value prop? What's your elevator pitch? And Orchestrate is going to help you walk through all of those and finely tune them to be razor sharp when spoken. You're also going to set up a voice profile. So the hard part about AIs nowadays is it sounds like AIs nowadays.
Right.
So you'll get to set up a voice profile in there that makes Orchestrate sound like you when it creates all of its messaging.
Yeah.
Last but not least, if you're interested, it does a LinkedIn profile optimizer that will allow you to look at your LinkedIn profile and optimize it for persuasion. Once you have all that set up, and I would encourage your listeners, even if you have those things, run it through Orchestrate, let it fine tune it. You'll be amazed at the output. Then you get into workspaces, and workspaces always remembers your foundations. So it always remembers your value prop, elevator pitch, etc. One of the favorite ways that I use Orchestrate is Orchestrate, I want to approach ABC company. Here's the LinkedIn URL. Here is the website URL. And then I type those in. And then I say, create an email campaign. Give me the people that I should be emailing. I want to do it because I want to get an initial meeting. And I let Orchestrate start to do the work. And what it'll do is it'll come back and say, Jake, you should contact A, B, and C. Here's their psychological profile. Here's the best way to create the email. And Jake, here's a set of 5 emails for you to use when following up with these people. And when you get an interview with somebody or you talk to a prospect, if you record it like you do on Fathom or Otter or one of the note takers, you can put the transcript into Orchestrate and say, analyze this, and Orchestrate will break it down. Here's everything you talked about. Here's the takeaways. Here's the psychological profile of the person you talk to and how to talk to them in the future. It will even create a maximized email, text message, and follow-up phone call for you to use. So Orchestrate is really only limited by the imagination. And that's why in the Orchestrate community, we have a section called Prompt Power, where people can put in what their favorite prompts are to use to maximize Orchestrate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, where does this amazing software platform fit into your fractional world? Are a lot of the fractional execs using Orchestrate to find clients, do sales campaigns? Is there kind of a crossover situation there?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we have a lot of sales consultants that do consulting for a living that use Orchestrate as the backbone. So they'll say, listen, you don't have a value prop yet. Go to Orchestrate, create one, and then come back to me and let's talk for an hour about how to best utilize this.
Yeah.
So people can use it individually, or consultants can use it as kind of a companion to their actual practice.
Amazing. Really, really cool. There's a product roadmap. Can you share some of the highlights and some of the exciting things that are yet to be added into the Orchestrate platform?
Sure. Well, I'm thrilled to announce today was an upgrade. We upgraded the AI inside Orchestrate. It now gives you more in-depth answers and rationalized a little bit more. And we upgraded our role play. So David, if you have a situation where you're like, I charge 10 grand a month, my client only wants to pay 7, help me out. Orchestrate will actually work through how to create messaging to get the customer to come back to see your way. And if you want, you can even role play it. And Orchestrate will play the customer, and then it will grade your role play to help you out. Some of the upgrades we have coming up is we're looking at CRM integration so that it can actually go in and it can take a look at the notes that you've taken so far, and it can analyze those as well. We're looking at adding a voice modulator on it so that instead of typing in everything, you can actually talk to Orchestrate and have it respond.
Yeah.
We're also looking at having people use it to maximize their web pages, landing pages, anything that is customer facing that you need to persuade with. We're working on Orchestrate being able to touch.
Incredible. Really, really cool. I want to go behind the scenes here in our last couple of minutes because you also have an amazing podcast.
Thank you.
Talk about how the podcast has sort of taken off and what has the podcast done for your visibility, credibility, market eminence, connection building, all of those things.
Well, I'm thrilled to say you're going to be a guest on it next week, so I'm really excited about that. But the podcast is called Lead Gen Reboot, and it encourages people to look at their lead generation a different way. Not do these millions of generic messages and get more down and personal with people and spend the time to build an intentional database. So we just had our 15th episode, and it's been, moderately well received. We're not killing marketplaces by any means, but we're growing. We have some great guests on there. Again, you're going to be one of them. And the whole idea is to get people to rethink about the way we communicate with prospects.
Yeah.
The more we abuse a prospect and the more we turn them off, the less they're going to look at future things coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And Gartner recently just did a survey, I'm sure you're aware of it, that said 80% of people would rather buy a product without a salesperson involved. And It's a bet we made. And if we're going to make any improvements, we have to think more about how we generate our leads and how we nurture them. And that's
Absolutely.
what the podcast is for.
For sure. I think we talked about this in our earlier offline conversation, but is there a book in your future that has all of these goodies, strategies, tactics, tools in a book format?
Yeah, I have a book right now I'm writing called Neuro-strategy. It's a term we coined. We have it trademarked. And I want to just talk about how to sell without selling. Is there a way to promote and get somebody to buy without mentioning you, your company, or your product? And David, I'm a firm believer that there is. I think there's a way to, I've proven there's ways to sell people and get them to ask you about it before you can even mention it. So the Neuro-strategy book is going to be designed to help people do just that.
Totally amazing. As we're landing the plane, 2 final questions for you. The final question is, where can people go to connect with you and get more of your brilliance? Before we get to that, though, if folks were to take one overarching concept from our conversation today about all of these things, orchestrate, behavioral psychology, buyer safety, the way that we need to communicate in the sales world of 2025 and beyond, what do you hope that core concept or takeaway would be?
To me, the core concept is, and this is an age-old adage, just listen. If you can take the first 5 minutes of a conversation with somebody and talk 5% of the time and let them get things out, I guarantee you the landscape of the conversation will change. And neuro-strategy is built on the premise of understanding the customer, and we can't do that until we listen. So I would advise everybody, challenge yourself. Can you go 5 minutes without talking about yourself or your product?
Jake, where can people go to get connected and stay connected to more Jake Stahl brilliance? What links should go in the show notes?
Sure. So they can find me at LinkedIn. That's linkedin.com/Jake Stahl. They could go to the Orchestrate website if they'd like to try a free trial. And that's Orchestrate, where straight is spelled STRAIGHT, the straightest line to success. And I would highly encourage, if they want tips and trips like this every week, on LinkedIn, I do a newsletter called Fresh from Jake's Mind Lab. We release every Monday, and it's got stuff like this in it every single week.
Amazing. And of course, the podcast, soon to be featuring yours truly.
Yeah, they could go to my podcast, which is Lead Gen Reboot, and that's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Beautiful. And all of those links, all of those goodies are waiting for you in the show notes directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. Jake Stahl, you're a rock star. I appreciate you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, David. I really appreciated you having me on.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.